Hey everyone, welcome to Writer's Word, sorry about that. This is a podcast that I'm going to have other writers on, and we're going to talk about our creative processes and what it takes to be a writer, and the before and the afters, and all of that good stuff. My name is Heather Alvarez. I am a writer myself. I am a published author. My book is called A Mob of Troubles. If you're interested, check it out. Today I have an amazing guest who is a published author herself, also a business coach and a public speaker. She has her own show called the Sally Allen Podcast, and it can be found on all major social media platforms. So make sure you check her out. And everybody, please welcome Sally Allen. Hi, Sally.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on for my very first podcast.
I am honored to be here. I was so excited when I heard it was your first podcast. Yeah. But and what you're doing, this is so exciting, like being an author. I thought, like, what better way to like honor what we do, because writing a book is hard, and also giving exposure like to the different processes we go through as, you know, we write our stories, because it's all different. Our stories are different.
Right.
And the processes are different. So I'm excited like to see where your podcast will go, and hear other authors and their, you know, what they have done and how they're doing.
Thank you. And I didn't say yet, but her book is called Triumph Over Failure and Fear. Correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys check out that book too.
Thank you.
So tell me, I kind of had the idea with reading your book. And first of all, let me just say, wow. I had so many different emotions going through your book. I mean, from anger to heartbreak to, oh, I wanted to fight your family, just all these different things. And it's an amazing book. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great
I
book.
appreciate that.
But what made you decide that I'm going to just write this down?
You know, I think I was talking to George the other day, and he said, the one thing he said to me was that we live in our own cultures, and we think it's normal whatever is happening in our culture, because that's just how things are. So when I went through my story, living in that culture, I just thought it was normal. I never thought for a minute that, you know, the way I was treated or being forced into an arranged marriage or anything like that, that it's not normal and it's not okay. But then I moved to this country, and I moved probably like 30 years ago, and people would ask me my story, and I'll just share, and they'd be like, what? You what? Like, they couldn't believe my story. And I still didn't believe like I had a story to share.
It's an amazing story. It's highs, many, many, many lows, but your highs just like overwhelmed all your lows, and that's incredible. So then you just said, you know what, I want to write this down, or?
No, I was working at a gaming company, and someone introduced me. I was at a restaurant where it's right beside the company, and I usually go to lunch there, and someone introduced me to this other coach. Her name is Missy Day. And we started talking, and I shared my story with her, and she's like, oh my gosh, I have an event called Like-Minded Lunch, and I want you to come share your story. And I shared it there, and it was in a professional environment, and all these people were crying. And one woman, she actually got up and she gave me her, I don't know if you know what the giving key is, but it had the word love, and she said, you're the epitome of love, given everything you've gone through. I want to give this to you.
Oh.
And I started then to believe that I had a story. And not long after, you know, my friend invited me again to go speak at an event called What's Your Story? And that's where it hit me, because people were coming up to me and they were like, you need to write this story. You need to make a movie. Like, this is amazing.
Are you seriously considering making a movie?
I would if anybody would help me.
Oh my
turn
gosh.
it into, you know,
That would be
it's a possibility,
incredible.
right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's when I actually started to believe it. And then I was like, okay, I'll just start writing it out. And I just start jotting it out, writing it out. And I dabbled for a year. And all I came up with was a summary. And then in 2020, I was like, you know what? Stuff was going down with COVID and everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm really going to dig into this process. So I paid a publisher to help me, because now I know there's money down there. I got to do it. So I gave the publisher what I had, and she came back and she just left, and she's like, "This is a summary. You got to go in and you got to dig deep, and you got to think about all those memories and go into details with it."
Ooh.
Hmm.
And you did.
That was the
Yeah.
hard part, because what she made me do, and I didn't realize what was happening, was I opened up all those old wounds. I just opened them all
Right,
up. I just
right.
had to fillet myself, basically, and that's how I was able to write it. And then she looked at it and she wasn't happy, and she said, "I want you to write how you felt back then and how you're feeling now." So I had to look back at that little girl and then at the person I am now, and that's where I broke down. It was so hard. I get
Because I
inspired.
mean, you started at the very beginning, like it was
Yes.
kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
On the bridge.
Yes. Yes. On the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for you to go all the way back there
That's
and
right.
to relive it, oh my gosh. I can't imagine the emotions
It
you were
was-
going through at that time.
I'm telling you, I get my inspiration at 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning, and my keyboard would be soaked with tears
Oh,
as I'm writing it, because I'm writing for that little girl, like how helpless she was. And then I'm thinking who I am now, and I'm just a mess as I'm going through this. So, one tip I'll give is, if you're writing your story like that, get help in the middle of it, because you are basically opening up all those wounds and you need to process it. I hadn't processed it through, and I didn't realize that. So that was hard.
wow. How did how did you decide whether to keep things out, or I mean, I'm assuming there's stuff that you did not put in there because then.
Yeah.
So how did you decide which one rated better than others to make it into the book?
Good question. I knew my family, so I made a conscious decision that I will leave everyone out. If you read my book, it's about me, but I have lots of siblings. We were 10 of us, like.
Oh my
back then.
gosh.
Yeah. And when my story was happening, there was still a couple of them experiencing it with me. But I just wanted to make it my story, and I didn't want to get anyone in trouble, so I left them all out. And I just wrote it strictly from my perspective. That was a decision. It wasn't a hard one, because I just knew the consequences that would come with me writing this, because we don't do this in our culture. We don't share like openly like that, and we don't share that stuff that happens. And so that was the hard part. That was the consequence. I was talking to you earlier at the end, because there's major backlash that came back from that. So yeah. So anyways, to move on with the process, I had to do that, and just go back and forth with the emotions. And then finally, 2 years later, I pulled a trigger and I published it. The other part was, like, there's so many little things that go into it. You know, right? There are little
Yes,
things
yes.
that go into it that you don't even think about.
Right.
Who's the audience? Who you're writing for? How are you going to structure it? And, when you found out all your target audience, then are you just going to take people in this dark hole and taking them into dark hole and taking them in a dark hole? How do you bring them back out of that dark hole? So that part of the structure we came up with, that, okay, to bring people out of that dark hole, you actually have to write where you are now.
Right. So that's why you did it like pretty much every chapter.
Yes.
Yeah. You had the
Yeah.
sad and the heartache, and then
Yes.
look at how you overcome this. And yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
Yes. That was my thought process. I don't know about you. In your book, what was your thought process?
Well, mine was just actually made as a funny joke
Okay.
at work. Each character in the book
Yeah.
is named, the way they look, the way they act, how they interact with each other is all based on a real coworker of mine.
Oh, how
So we all
fun.
came
Yeah.
together, and because we were talking about Jerry Springer, I don't know if you remember Jerry Springer.
Oh, yeah.
But we were talking about, oh, let's go on there. And we were like, yeah, and we'll all give ourselves roles because, they're all actors. So it got confusing because I had like 30 people that were jumping in. And I'm like, how do you know so-and-so to so-and-so to so-and-so? And so I wrote it down.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, well, how did they meet? So for fun, I just wrote how most of them met. And then they were like, what happened next? What happened next? And I just kept going. And next thing I know, I'm writing a book.
Oh, so
And I didn't have
exciting.
any intention of being a writer or anything. I didn't even know I could write. I just, because all my coworkers were like, what happens next? What happens next?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just like how every character in there is associated with a person,
Right, right.
including my own mother.
Oh my gosh, how
She's in
exciting.
there. She's in there as well. So my process just came as an accident.
Yeah.
And then I put it aside because I quit the job.
Yeah.
And then I ran into some and they were like, whatever happened with that book? And I was like, I don't know. They're like,
Yeah.
you should publish it. It's a really good book. And I'm like, come
Yeah.
on. But they were like, no, do it. And so, yeah, I went the self-publishing route.
Right, right.
And there we have it. So,
Oh my god.
yeah, I didn't really have a process. it just accidentally happened.
I love it. I love it.
I just came across it.
Yeah.
But
I guess this type of book, you know, when you're writing your story, it's different. Like one of the things, the hardest part for me was coming up with the chapters. And I did it all in one night. I just sat
Wow.
down. Yeah, I just like I chronologically went through my life, and I'm like, there's the trains coming, you know, there's the Great Escape, and there's this and there is that, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm not touching it. I'm not changing it. That's it. Just leave it because you
Okay.
overanalyze. At one
Right.
point, my publisher was like, stop. You need to stop editing now. Like it's time to stop. But self-publishing, sometimes what they do is she would redo some stuff and she would put some words in there that I don't speak that way. You know, they're calling people names or like my ex-husband names, and she put words, and I'm like, I don't speak that way and I don't feel that way. So you can't take your feelings and impose it on my book. I had to tell her, I'm changing that. I want it to be my book. So there was a couple of times we had a little like that, and I had to stand firm and said, no, I'm not going to do that. And the one part I regret also is that when I left everybody out when I wrote my book, and I said, I'm writing this from my perspective and not adding, you know, my family, my sisters, anyone, I actually asked my publisher, should I put that, I've changed the characters because some of all the characters have been changed from what they really are, who the people are. I change them all to protect people. And secondly, I said, I left people out of the story because I wanted to tell it from my perspective. For my integrity, should I put that somewhere in the beginning of the book? And she said no. And I regretted not doing that because that caused a lot of conflict of people saying, well, your story isn't true. There were other people there. There was da-da-da-da-da. So that's the one thing, like, I should have followed my gut and done that, and I regretted not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, how are you feeling about it? Do you feel like, whew, it's a relief to get my story out, or do you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done it?
No, so I wrote it with the intentions of, somebody had said, write it, finish it. You don't have to publish it if you don't want to. So I had to go back, when I published it, I had to go back to my why, because I did have a why when I started. Look, why do you want to write your story? And I realized that so many people have heard my story and relate to it, and it just blessed them so much. I'm like, my story can help other people. And that was my why, because I want to use that story to help other people. Now, one thing you don't know about me is that I love volunteering, and I do it at these homes where women are being abused and sex trafficked.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what I can do is hand them a book, and they know my story before I walk in.
Okay. And then you can sit down and talk to them, and hopefully they'll talk to you, and they can work through it as well. Oh, that's great.
That's right.
That's great.
That's right. So that was the purpose of writing my book, that I can hand someone and say, look, read this, and hope it helps you. And so many people have come back and said, wow, like, we're so glad that you gave us this book. Like, we can relate to some of the stories in there, but we know there's hope at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. So, I'm really glad you wrote it then, because it's helping so many people. That's fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the resilience part of my
Right.
book. Like,
That
I had to,
That was your triumph, though.
That was my triumph.
That was your triumph. Yeah.
Because the day I published, I am telling you, the world went mad, and I said,
Oh, yes. You said you had a story. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
said the world because my family is spread out all over the world.
Okay.
And it was just, how dare you say that? How dare how dare you say our mom's an alcoholic? My expectation was that when my family finally read this, that they would come to a point and say, oh my gosh, Sally, we didn't realize how much you went through. And we're standing with you now. And even if they do it covertly because they didn't want the other family member to know or something, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. But here's what I found out. My sisters, probably three of them, we were on a call, and they said, Sally, we went through the same thing that you did. We'll take it to the grave with us.
What?
But we're glad you wrote it, because that's bringing us healing too. That was worth all the money I spent on that book. All
Just
the money.
hearing that from your three sisters.
Yes. Just that. Those three supported me, but for the rest, I was like,
Yeah, forget about the rest of them. Just the fact that the three sisters had your back. And
yeah.
But
Yeah, it was really tough. It was like I went into a very dark place for 6 months without realizing it. Because publishing your book should be the most joyous day of your life, because you know how much effort you put into that book. And then here it comes, everybody's gone, lost their mind, and I just couldn't take it. The pressure was so much on me that after I did my book launch in July of last year, I didn't talk about my book again, and I didn't realize it. I didn't mention it again. I didn't think about it. I literally and figuratively put it in a box. So then this January, I woke up and I just felt this voice, like, I believe in God, and I just felt him saying, Sally, no one can steal your dreams without your permission. No one can steal your dreams without your permission. And I realized that had to do with my book. And for the first time I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked about my book for 6 months.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, can you imagine
That
all
is
that
a
work?
crazy long time.
With all the work we put in, right? As an
Yeah.
author, and
Yeah.
then you just, so I was like, okay. Then I felt like, just imagine how you went into hiding because of the consequences that came. And how many people have stories that they want to share, but they don't have a voice on a platform?
Well, they can come on here.
That's how it started, though. That's how my podcast started. That's how my podcast started, too. Like, give people a platform to share their stories. Take it a step further. Take it up a notch. And I was so scared. I'm like, me? No.
Right.
How am I going to do a
That's how I
podcast?
feel. Yeah.
How am I going to do a
Like,
podcast?
am I too old for this?
You're never too old for anything, right? For me, I'm like, I can barely string two words together most of the times. I'll run out of words. My vocabulary gets limited when I go out in public. And it's just, all these limiting beliefs that I'm putting in my head. And then finally you said, I'm going to just pull the trigger. A friend introduced me to this studio, Sticky Paw Studio. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to set a date for my first podcast. That was the scariest thing. That was scarier than writing the book.
Yes, I agree. Yes. My son just kind of just forced my hand into this, and I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh. And the rest is history.
Yeah. And like I said, if it's helping out, hundreds, maybe eventually thousands of other women in the same predicament, then
I hope so.
Yeah, that would be
that's
fantastic.
My hope. That's my why.
Yeah.
That's my hope. Yes. And that's still my hope for my book.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mine, I hope people just find it entertaining and, just want a lovely, fun, dramatic romance with a whole bunch of issues going on.
Yes.
Then, they'll check it out and read it and enjoy it and tell their friends, and who knows? Who knows where it will go? And
I love it. There's a book out there for every type, every situation, and I love it.
I'm happy to see books coming back. There was a while there that I don't think books were selling very well. Everybody was on the internet or, their tablets or Kindles.
Yeah.
And so, I think physical books are starting to make a little bit of a comeback, and I see people carrying around physical books, and I'm like, yes, yay!
I have to admit, I'm one of those internet
Well, yeah,
junkies. I carry all my
I
books
read some
in
books
here.
on my phone too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
admit it.
Yeah.
But I like a physical book too. Especially
Yeah.
like on an airplane or something. I'll bring it like a physical book to read.
That's awesome.
I don't know why. I could just easily do it on my phone, but
It's probably habit, right?
I get probably because I've been doing it for I'm not gonna say how many years. But anyway, like I said, so many emotions.
Yeah.
But you said you changed some of the characters around, but they were still like those problems that you had were legit problems. They weren't like over exaggerated or anything, right?
No. Everything that happened was the way it happened. I changed a character to protect people. And I had a thought in my head, and it just flew out of my head.
I hate when that happens.
But yeah, everything I wrote was chronological how it happened. The one thing my sisters had said to me was, Sally, you didn't even scratch the surface of everything that happened. Because I couldn't. The book is there's so much trauma in it. You can't just keep putting trauma after trauma. I just wanted to get the gist of my story out there, and that's what I did. And just, in short forms of how things happen. But they're like, you didn't even scratch the surface. And I'm like, I intentionally wrote it that way. So somebody, and they were like, if you want to beef up your book, you could put more fillers in there. And I learned what fillers were. There were more descriptions of places and people and things. And my publisher was like, I want this book to be a shock factor. Don't put fillers in it. Let people read it. It should be like hitting them like boom, boom, boom. And she's like, make it short and sweet. People will read it. And I was like, okay. So that's why you see it's like very to the point. And everything, it's just, there's no fillers in there, man. That book is just, my son read it. He's like, Mom, that's like a scary movie. What's going to happen next?
I was kind of thinking that too. I'm like,
yeah.
What's Jay going to do?
Yeah.
Is he going to be okay with is it Chris? Chris. Is he going to be okay with Chris? I don't know. And then I was reading, I was like, oh, he's not okay. Not okay with
She's
Chris.
She's hanging over a train track right now.
Right. Yeah, and you kind of, we're just like, you said, to this day, I don't know how I wasn't killed by the train. I'm like,
no.
Did he pull you back?
I have no idea.
People come in? That part, I was like, what happened?
I don't know. I passed out. I think I passed out. That's all I can think.
Yeah, that's crazy. Are you thinking about like a second book about yourself, or are you going to go a different route? Or?
No, I think my route is the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's I think that's the route I'll go. I have my coaching business that's taking up a lot of my time, and as you know, writing a book is very time consuming.
Yes.
Yeah. So I probably won't, but you never say never. But for now, I feel like my focus is the podcast, giving people a voice and focusing on my coaching business. And that's it, yeah.
Okay, so for right now, just the one book.
Just the one book.
But it's not a never say never
that's
kind
right.
of situation? Okay. Well, you let me know when you do the second one, because I will definitely want to read it.
Yes, and I will.
It was amazing. It really, really was.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're
Thank
very
you for
welcome. Very welcome. So, tell me about your coaching thing. So, do you invite people that have personal issues to come and listen to you, and then you pretty much tell them your story, and then do they share theirs, or?
So my coaching is both personal and professional coaching. So I coach with corporations, so career coaching, business coaching, and then I do have people who would come with different types of resiliency that they're struggling. It could be financial resiliency. It could be, they want to change careers. I'm coaching people who are going to retire in a year and think they don't know what they want to do. So how do we build a plan for them for when they retire, so they're not,
That's an important one.
Not having anything. So I coach all types of, like, whatever is going on, I can coach it.
Wow. So you're like a jack of all trades. Very nice.
coaching is a process, and it's a methodology, so it's you can apply it to most situations. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you like calling yourself an author? Do you feel like you deserve that title, that name?
That's a great question. It took my resurrection in January to like and be proud to call myself an author, to put it on my social media and my LinkedIn, because for the longest while I didn't feel like it. I felt so defeated.
Yeah.
I couldn't call myself an author. And then this January, I'm like, screw it. I wrote that book. I spent a lot of money to publish that book, and I'm gonna put it out there. So I did. It's on all my social media now. It's on my LinkedIn, and I am proud to call myself an author because it is not easy to write a book.
It is not. I felt the same way because when I published it and it only sold like 50 copies, I was so defeated. I was like, oh, am I really an author then? Because only 50 people have bought it. So I'm like, I don't know. But I'm thinking the same way as you. Hey, I spent 17 years working on this thing. Right. Even though it started out as a funny joke. Yeah. It still ended up a book, and it still ended up entertainment for people. So I think I'm an author.
No, you don't think you're an author. You know you're an author, and you own that.
I know it. I am
Good
an
for
author.
you. There you go.
Yeah. So tell me, what are your favorites? You have favorite authors? Or
I have, like, I saw your book there with Stephen King. Love to read Stephen King book. But I find as I started my coaching business and I started doing that, I'm more like reading business books now. Like, I love John Maxwell. I don't know if you know, he's a business coach. I read a lot of John Maxwell book. And if you're looking in here, it's all, you're gonna laugh, but I have to tell you, it's all my husband. He laughs. Like, one of the books I'm reading called Chase the Lion. The other one is Crucial Conversation, the 5 Levels of a Leader. So those are the types of books like I get into now, and the types of podcasts I listen to, leadership podcasts. And then I watch the Sticky Paw podcast. There you go.
Of course.
Because they make me laugh. So yeah, when I read fun books, I love mystery. Like I said, I love Stephen King. If I'm going on a long trip, they entertain me, scare me to death. So I will read one of those books. I also love Nora Roberts. I'd read all of her books.
I have some of her as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So when I travel and I'm on long trips, yes, I will pick up Stephen King or somebody like.
Well, for me, it depends on my mood.
Yeah.
If I want to be scared, yes, I will definitely pick up Stephen King or maybe even Dean Koontz.
I love Dean Koontz. He's one of my favorite authors. Yeah.
But if I want some mush, then I'll get like James Patterson or Nora's kind of mushy too.
I love James Patterson too. He writes such great
it just depends on my mood.
Gold Coast. You read Gold Coast?
I haven't read that one. No.
So good.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go get that one because I haven't read that one. But,
yeah.
But mostly Stephen King's my man, and as you can see, I love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I have the books and I have the audiobooks. So sometimes the audiobooks are amazing because the guy who reads them does all the voices for all the characters.
That has to be amazing.
It's so entertaining. I think he won an Emmy or something for it because he's so good at it. He's so good at it.
I'm going to have to get that and listen to it. I have to tell my mother-in-law. She loves Harry Potter books, so I'm going to have to tell her.
Because he'll get really high when it's a girl, but then he gets really deep when it's Hagrid. And how he keeps it straight, I don't know, because literally every character has a different voice.
Wow, that's pretty
cool. So, I don't. So I love it. I'll get in the car and I'm just laughing because it's so entertaining and everything. And but Stephen King is my man, though. When I want to get scared, I go to Stephen King,
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I like his movies, too. The movies from his books.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of them. Thinner.
The Stand is my favorite.
Yeah.
The Stand. I guess they remade The Stand, but I like the OG version with Gary Sinise, Molly Ringwald.
Oh, I'm going to have to check it out.
Rob Lowe. Hello.
Yeah, of course.
Rob Lowe. That man does not age. Seriously, it's like, what's his name from the Avengers? Ant-Man.
Which one? Ant-Man.
Paul
He
Rudd.
doesn't- Yeah.
He doesn't age
doesn't
either. It's
age.
crazy. I wish I had that.
Isn't he short? I think it's a short people thing.
I'm not sure. Probably. He doesn't look.
It's a
But then
short
he
people
stands
thing.
next to like Chris Hemsworth.
That's
who's,
what
like
I'm thinking. Like,
6-something.
that's what I'm
So it's hard
thinking.
to
Like,
tell.
is he short or is Chris Hemsworth too tall? I don't know.
Maybe both.
It could be. I have no idea.
But I'm just saying, I don't know how they don't age. They still look really young.
Yeah.
I want their facial,
I
whatever they do, their facial.
Yeah. Need some of those tricks.
Yeah, I want to know how you don't age.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we are coming to the end of our wonderful podcast. I want to thank Sticky Paws for loaning me their studio for today. And of course, I want to thank you, Sally Allen. Once again, get her book, Triumph Over Failure and Fear.
Yes.
Got that right? And then if you're interested, my book is A Mob of Troubles. I would love for you guys to check that out as well. So once again, thank you for watching. Have a great day.